Okay, so the first ones were just your evaluate. You're just plugging those in. For number 1, you're plugging -2 into each x. You're going to square the -2 first because that exponent is on that. And remember, you're plugging in parentheses. So that becomes 2 times 4 minus 2 minus 1, or 8 minus 3. And that's 5. The f of -a, we plug in a -a in place of all the x's. And you get 2a squared minus a minus 1. And that's as simplified as it gets. And then the last one, you're doing x plus 1 in all those places. So x plus 1 squared plus x plus 1 minus 1. Expand and FOIL, or use the shortcut on the x plus 1. The shortcut would be x squared. You would double the product, so plus 2x plus 1 squared, which is 1, plus x plus 1 minus 1. Distribute the 2. 2x squared plus 4x plus 2 plus x. Positive 1 and negative 1 actually cancel out. And I get 2x squared plus 5x plus 2. Questions on any of those 3? Yeah.
Do we have to factor that?
Or no.
You can leave it.
You want to leave it. That is simple. Like, unless it says factor or solve, you want to leave it expanded like that. If it had said factor, or it said solve or find the zeros or something like that, that's when you got to factor and keep going. Okay, then we talked about domain on Friday, and we said that it's all real numbers, except if there's a variable in the denominator, there's a variable under the square root, or the combination of them. In the first one, so in 4, you've got the variable in the denominator. If there's a variable in the denominator, we set the denominator, God bless you, not equal to 0, and I'd get 3x cannot equal -1, and x cannot equal -1/3. And then we had to put it in interval notation, so this is -infinity to -1/3, and then -1/3 to positive infinity. So you'll write it in interval notation. Five has the variable under the square root and in the denominator under the square root. So if it's just in a square root, like the numerator, we say that it has to be greater than or equal to 0 because it can't be negative underneath. If it's in the denominator, now it's greater than 0. So from my numerator, I get that x has to be greater than or equal to -1. From the denominator, I get x has to be greater than 3. If you need to visualize it on the number line, do it. So -1 would have a bracket pointing to the right, and +3 would have a parenthesis pointing to the right. It's only where they overlap, because it's the same, that needs to be restricted for both. So this is from 3 to positive infinity. Questions on any of it? Okay, so we're going to finish 1, 2, and the only thing you guys didn't get to is the difference quotient. And the difference quotient, honestly, is not difficult because you know how to do all the parts, but it looks strange. So if you just practice it, it's easy. You have to be careful with their sign distribution, but other than that, it's easy, okay? This is what's called the difference quotient, and it is f of x plus h minus f of x over h. So you literally will just break it down into pieces. They're going to give you an expression for f of x. You're going to take x plus h and plug it into that expression, and that's going to replace this term. Then you're going to subtract the initial expression, whatever the f of x is giving, and there you'll distribute your negative to all those powers, to all the terms, and then you'll put it over h. If you've done it correctly, you should be able to simplify it from there. There should be an h on the terms. You'll cancel out the h's, and you end up with just a simplified term, okay? It will be used again in calc, but you use it when you start doing things like finding the secant line of a graph, which is calc stuff. So we are just going to do the difference quotient part. And the directions will say, evaluate the difference quotient given, and it's going to give you the f of x. So you have to know the difference quotient is f of x plus h minus f of x over h. That you have to memorize. And then the first thing you're going to do is that f of x plus h. So I literally take x plus h and I plug it into the x values of your f of x. So it's x plus h squared minus 2 times x plus h minus 5. This is just that first part. So you're going to expand and FOIL the x plus h, or you can use the shortcut. And because that same thing is going to happen multiple times, it's to your benefit to kind of learn what it is. But if you don't know and you go back to basics, expand and FOIL it, I get x plus h times x plus h. So x times x is x squared, x times h is xh, x times h is xh, and h times h is h squared. And I get x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. Now, every time you do the difference quotient where your f of x has an x squared, it doesn't always have an x squared, but if it does, you're going to get that. So it's also to your benefit to kind of memorize that. Like, it is the shortcut, remember, is square the first term, double the product, square the last term. So you can also use that. That's just the that's just the first part. Then I'm going to do minus 2 times both of these. So minus 2x minus 2h, and then the minus 5. Look to see if you can combine like terms. There's nothing there to combine. That whole thing is your f of x plus h. So I get x squared plus 2xh plus h squared minus 2x minus 2h minus 5. Good morning.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Then you're going to subtract from it the f of x. So the original whole f of x. So minus x squared minus 2x minus 5 all over h. God bless you. The minus gets distributed, so my numerator becomes x squared plus 2xh plus h squared minus 2x minus 2h minus 5 minus x squared plus 2x plus 5 all over h. Now we combine like terms. X squared and negative x squared cancel out. Negative 2x and positive 2x cancel out. Negative 5 and positive 5 cancel out. I get 2xh plus h squared minus 2h all over h. If you've done that step correctly, every term that's left should have an h. And then I can cancel the bottom h into each of them. And I end up with 2x plus h minus 2. Yeah. I actually think this is not on your AP. This is one of the topics you need for calc, but not your exam. I'll look up, again, if I remember correctly, it's not. Yep. So the other thing you'll see is like something like where h cannot equal 0. Why would that be there? Yeah.
Because it would be undefined.
Good. From the beginning, if I made h 0, it would be undefined, right? It's like your domain restriction. Okay, so you don't have to include that, but sometimes you'll see that included. Don't get confused. That's what that means. That's it. That's the difference quotient. Is it tedious? Yes. Is it complicated? Yes. Is it hard to do? No, because you know how to do all those individual parts, okay? The biggest thing I would say is be really careful when distributing your signs. That's when people make some silly mistakes, okay? But that's it. That's all the difference quotient is. This you'll need to know for your test. It will be included on your test. Like this question would get included on your test, so you'll need to know the difference quotient. And that part won't be given to you. Questions? All right, you try it. All right, so the first part would be f of x plus h. I'm going to take the x plus h and plug it into each of those. So I'd get x squared, which is x plus h squared, plus 3 times x plus h minus 2. Expand and FOIL your x plus h squared, and it's x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. Distribute, this time it's a positive 3, so plus 3x plus 3h minus 2. Then I'm going to subtract from that my original expression. I'm going to change the signs this time so I don't have to rewrite it twice. It would be minus this whole thing. Be careful with this step. Minus x squared minus 3x plus 2, and it's all going over h. You can wait till the very end to put it over h if you don't want to write that twice. It doesn't matter when you do it as long as you remember to do it at the end. The x squared and the negative x squared cancel out. The 3x, the negative 3x cancel out, and the negative 2 and the positive 2 cancel out. And I get 2xh plus h squared plus 3h over h, and then I cancel out the h's on each term, and I get 2x plus h plus 3. Raise your hand if you got it right. Good. Okay. Usually if people get this wrong, it's one, they haven't practiced it at all. Like if you do tonight's homework, you're getting 2 more problems, and then tomorrow we'll do it one more time. It should be in your brain by then, okay? Or it's the sign issue. So just be really careful when you're distributing your signs, okay? All right, so